The San Francisco 49ers victorious in week 1 on Monday Night Football against Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, 32-19. We've got game balls and, wow, no Christian McCaffrey? No problem for the San Francisco 49ers showing up in week 1. We're all about it right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. See a lot of you already in the live chat here after a Monday night win, a huge W on week 1 for the 49ers to start the 2024 season. Make sure you're subscribed while you're here on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And hello to all the new listeners of Locked On 49ers as well. Why don't you stay for a while and you can subscribe too. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Prize Picks. All you got to do, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. And if you played Jordan Mason and picked the more than on Prize Picks, you are a big winner on this night, Croc. Unbelievable news that Christian McCaffrey was inactive. Were the San Francisco 49ers playing a little funny business with that information, Croc? Because on the radio this week, especially John Lynch made it sound like, man, Christian McCaffrey is playing. Christian McCaffrey himself made it sound like Christian McCaffrey is playing. And I don't know if you caught this, Croc, but after the game, they asked Jordan Mason when he found out he was going to be starting, and he said, Friday.
Well, Friday was the day that Christian McCaffrey pulled himself out of practice.
Yeah.
So that was something that we didn't know. And if you listen to John Lynch prior to, Friday afternoon's practice, it was something that a lot of people weren't privileged to. I think the 49ers assumed, oh, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, Monday evening, he's going to be just fine. And you and I kind of talked about the Achilles, right? Like, that's the big part. The calf, whatever. But when he had said previously, oh, if there's a game this week, I could play in it. But then they tagged his calf injury with the Achilles. I'm like, I don't know if you're 100% going out there, and Achilles is not something that they want to play with. So the one positive out of this, I think Kyle Shanahan now takes a while for him to trust people. I think he might actually trust Jordan Mason. You notice he didn't trust anybody else, like Jordan Mason, Debo. You guys are the only ones getting carries. You have like 2 more active running backs on the bench, and it's like, no, you guys aren't touching the ball. Only people I trust. I think he trusts Jordan Mason a little bit more now.
A lot of people fired up in the chat about how Jordan Mason played, how Moody played, and I don't think it's going to be any surprise, Croc, that we give a game ball out. So I guess we can just start there with Jordan Mason getting our first game ball of the 2024 season. 150 yards, 147 yards, on the ground on 28 carries. And Isaac Guerrero got on the field for one play, and then they called a timeout because Kyle Shanahan didn't like how everybody was lined up. So it's not just the Christian McCaffrey thing. Whoever Kyle Shanahan's lead back is the back for the game. And Jordan,
we've been saying that since Elijah Mitchell's rookie year. Elijah Mitchell, he went into a game on primetime television with a broken knee, a broken ribs, broken finger, and Kyle ran the ball 27 times with him in a blowout. Like, it doesn't matter who the back is. Kyle wants whoever that lead back is, you are getting the rock.
Deebo Samuel, we got the return of the wide back in this one as well. And I don't know if that was a last-minute switch, knowing that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to play, or if Deebo Samuel was going to be that featured in this matchup. He ended up carrying the ball 8 times and caught another 5 balls for 54 yards. Did Deebo Samuel in this one, kind of just short of breaking it. He did have that one touchdown, but was kind of just short of breaking a couple of runs and didn't really fully get going as good as he looked and as much as he touched the ball in this game. It was just all about Jordan Mason. Nobody else had more than 64 yards receiving or rushing, while Jordan Mason had 147 yards on a bell cow usage, 28 carries. So phenomenal stuff. Croc, you know me, I am not surprised that Jordan Mason was able to run the ball this well, because I believe that both Jordan Mason is talented and that Kyle Shanahan is really good at scheming up the run game, and that it's not like not having Christian McCaffrey, as good as he is, was going to mean that the 49ers weren't going to be able to run the ball. It was just going to be a few less other dynamic dimensions that Christian McCaffrey brings. We're not going to be a part of this football game. And it turned out in this one that the 49ers did not need it, running away from the New York Jets 32-19. Do the 49ers have just complete ownage on Aaron Rodgers, by the way?
Definitely. And he still had that like kind of smug look on his face at one point. And I was like, I gotcha. Shout to that. I want to go back to the running game for just a second with Jordan Mason and how well he ran the ball. But if you recall, you and I did an episode ranking the most important 49er players. And while Christian McCaffrey has been very important to the offense, we did not name him or rank him the most important, because we felt like if you take him out of the backfield and you plug somebody else in, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, you will get really good production on the ground. And I think they proved that again. Again, that's not to say that CMC is not significant with all the different things he does. And I'm pretty sure with Kyle Shanahan, maybe he makes it a lot easier to call certain plays, do different things, have different type of matchups. But you're not going to just fall apart not having Christian McCaffrey out there. And I think Jordan Mason really proved that tonight.
Yeah, he runs hard. He's got vision. He's just a pure running back. He's really good. And for those of you who don't remember, we got to shout out the scouting staff on this one as well. If you don't remember the story about Jordan Mason, he was an undrafted running back a couple of years ago out of Georgia Tech. And he was a starter early on in his career at Georgia Tech. And then they got this big-time recruit. In fact, they got a recruit at Georgia Tech at running back who was the biggest recruit they've ever gotten in the history of the Georgia Tech program. I mean, we're talking about a program that had Calvin Johnson, right? And this guy was a bigger recruit than even him when he showed up on campus, and he took Jordan Mason's starting job away from him. That guy is none other than former top 15 draft pick Jahmyr Gibbs. And then after Jordan Mason leaves, then Jahmyr Gibbs transfers to Alabama, and then we learn who Jahmyr Gibbs was, because I didn't know Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech version, but I learned about the Alabama version before he got drafted number 12 overall by the Detroit Lions. So it was.
I knew the Georgia Tech version because it was a big deal, and they're like, "Oh, this is the next Reggie Bush." Like that's what they were saying. And I watched the game, and I'm like, "Yeah, Reggie Bush, that's a stretch." I watched Reggie Bush live, but you see that dynamic ability. And, his ability to, catch the ball, run the ball, and you can kind of draw those parallels. But it only, not in the moment, it didn't help Jordan Mason, but obviously going to the 49ers and him getting in the position to be an undrafted back. And we're like, this is why 49ers don't draft running backs high. You shouldn't do that because you always like the later guy better. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Jordan Mason just kind of continue to climb up that roster. Here's a question for you. Would Jordan Mason be the guy starting right now if Elijah Mitchell was healthy?
Oh, see, I don't know. Would Elijah Mitchell have gotten 28 carries if he was healthy in this game? He might have.
I think so.
He might have. And he's looked really good when he's healthy. Would he have lasted 28 carries is the question with Elijah Mitchell. Unfortunately, that's the way his career has gone. But he's on IR, and Jordan Mason's a pure runner. He's a really good player. And Jordan Mason wouldn't have gone undrafted if Jahmyr Gibbs would have just chosen Alabama out of high school instead of going to Georgia Tech and taking Jordan Mason's job. So a really good job by the 49ers scouting staff and the coaches and everybody involved for finding him and unearthing him and realizing he was really good and bringing him in as an undrafted free agent. Now getting his first NFL start and making really good on that. And so that was really fun to watch because I knew this was in him and he could possibly do this if he got the opportunity. And with Christian McCaffrey back there, he was not going to get the opportunity. So it was really fun to see. And wonder if it was eye-opening enough for Kyle Shanahan to realize that maybe, maybe all the wear and tear and all the carries and touches that Christian McCaffrey got in years past added to where he's at right now. And it's like, Kyle, if you would have just given the ball to Jordan Mason a few more times last year, maybe Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt. Like, I don't want to put that all on Kyle Shanahan. I don't know how that would have gone for Christian McCaffrey, but you've got multiple guys that can tote the rock. And even in this one, it was like, put Garendo in. Let's go see Patrick Taylor. You don't have to give Jordan Mason 30 carries, 28 carries, right? You got the game pretty sealed up, and they finally did put Garendo on the field. Then they called a timeout, and then he wasn't on the field again the next time.
Well, here's my issue, right? We're talking about all the handoffs that, Jordan Mason got with his carries. And then if it wasn't him, it's like, oh, let's expose Deebo Samuel to just more hits.
Yeah.
Right. Like potentially getting him banged up. And one time he got up a little slow, and I'm like, get up, Deebo. But I look on the sideline, and I'm like, who's that number 32? That's a good looking fella. Like, I think that's the Patrick guy. Like, like give him the ball. He's standing right next to you. Like, you don't have to use Deebo Samuel. Especially if you're not, I could see if it's well, we don't trust Patrick Turner? Was it
Patrick Taylor. Yeah.
We don't trust Patrick Taylor in pass pro. Well, you're not using Deebo in pass pro either. So whatever plays you're giving Deebo Samuel to run the ball out of the backfield, give him to a running back, and maybe that will help kind of prolong Deebo Samuel, who, I don't know, gets banged up. I feel like dang near every game he plays in. He takes a physical hit. It's his shoulder. It's this, it's that. Let's limit those hits. And those are the things when Kyle Shanahan, great offensive mind. There's some weird things. He had like a weird kind of time of possession thing before the half. I'm pretty sure we'll touch on that. But, hey, let's be a little bit smarter with the health of some of these guys. And Deebo Samuel being a very important piece to this offense. We talked about Christian McCaffrey playing without him. Okay, you go to Jordan Mason, you're going to still get really good production. You take Deebo Samuel away, the passing game and the offense, it starts to get a little weird because you can't replicate what he brings to the offense.
Game ball for Jordan Mason for sure in this one. We've got more game balls to give out as we break down the week 1 win Monday nighter for the San Francisco 49ers to start the 2024 season. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Hims. Men, when we leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys. How's my hair look? But if you're experiencing hair loss, you might not be so confident when you step outside your door. It's time to get that confidence back and restore your hair with Hims. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients. Tons of things that you've heard of before that can help your hair regrow in as little as 3 to 6 months. Hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers already with Hims. So if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedonnfl. That's Hims, HIMS.com/lockedonnfl for your personalized hair loss treatment options. Hims.com/lockedonnfl. Results vary based on studies and of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
They tried to trip my guy Peacock up with that damn minoxidil or whatever the heck you just.
The minoxidil. I've heard of it. I don't read it from the copy very often, though. That's true. The disclaimers. The disclaimers will get you. That's for sure. I don't know. I don't know if that's something a route that you want to go down, Croc, with the Hims. By the way, I feel like you should have read that ad read. Because you always talk about what's going on with your hair and where you're at with that. And whenever you take your hat off, people are like, what? You always got the best hats, though. People are already in the chat talking about your hat, the lid you're wearing tonight, which is a fantastic one, by the way. Where we at with game balls? Do you want to go with another game ball right here? Do you want to talk about the Warner punch and the Flanagan or the forced fumble or the Demo tipped interception? Actually, I'm going to give out a game ball right now to Diamador Lenore because I think he was huge in this game, Croc. Not only the tip that led to the Demetrius Flanagan-Falls interception, but the one time in this game where I thought, okay, I don't like how the 49ers are looking early. They had the turnover, still went basically 3 and out and had to end up kicking a field goal. They weren't moving the ball. It looked like it was an extended preseason game for the 49ers early in this one in the first quarter. And then Aaron Rodgers started getting a little bit hot, getting in rhythm. And the Jets rolled down the field and take a lead. And they were targeting Garrett Wilson one play after another. And I thought, this is it. This is like Rodgers to Devontae Adams. This is a star in the making wide receiver, a really good player, an all-pro player. and Aaron Rodgers is going to start peppering the ball, and and the 49ers don't have an answer to it. They went down the field and they scored, and the Jets took the lead, and that was the last lead the Jets would have, and then the 49ers dominated from there, Croc, and they started getting together on offense, and then they started looking really good on defense, and you didn't hear Garrett Wilson's name called hardly again the rest of the entire game.
Yeah, I thought whether it was Diamador or Lenore, really just the defense in general. You know what the defense's best friend is? An offense that keeps the ball away from the opposing offense. And, I know you're giving the game ball to Demo and some of the defensive guys, and people are like, oh, yeah, bring back the vibe. Shout out to Sorensen. But to me, it felt like the 49ers offense took the air out of the Jets offense, keeping the ball away, going on these long drives. If you look at time of possession, I mean, it heavily favored the 49ers, maybe up until the last, few minutes of the game where the Packers almost called them. The Jets went down and scored a touchdown, but the offense did a great job of between playing keep away. They forced some takeaways, right? The defense did punching the ball out, then the offense gets it. They control not that possession, but later the interception and they go down. I mean, for me, just watching the offense and how they were able to control things. You talk about running the ball 28 times with Jordan Mason. That was the best defense I felt like the 49ers had on the field. And it shrunk the game so much. And then all of a sudden for the Packers, it seemed like, oh man, we're running out of time now. Like, do we have enough opportunities for possessions because of how well the 49ers control the clock? I would love to see the time of possession from the 49ers in the second quarter and third quarter. The third quarter, 49ers came out, drove down the field. Oh, shoots. I think they scored with like 6 minutes left in the quarter. I mean, they really milked the clock a lot. And that took a lot of the air out of the New York Jets.
You mentioned it for a second. Talk to me about the clock usage and the end of first half from Kyle Shanahan.
So it was really weird. The 49ers, I think maybe they had like one less guy on the field than they were supposed to or something, and they tried to like dummy snap it. They were a little unorganized in that first game of the season, those type of things, whatever. They end up calling a timeout. So now you have 2 timeouts left, I believe, at this moment. They throw a pass. They end up getting a first down. I think it was Juwan Jennings over the middle. They end up calling timeout. So now you have one timeout with about 23 seconds left in the game, or in the half, excuse me. And then they throw a tunnel screen. Why would you call a tunnel screen? Okay, so for you guys that don't know, the tunnel screen is typically the first outside guy kind of bubbles to the inside, catches the ball, and he's going to knife upfield and get whatever he can get. But it's not a call there's not a play that you call that's designed to get anybody out of bounds. If you only have one timeout left, it's like you're likely going to have to, get tackled, call timeout. And it's not even a play where it's going to just pick up a bunch of yards. Like more, you hope it does, but more than likely it might pick up a few. So there was like very low reward with it. And you were going to 90% chance you're going to have to burn a timeout. It was going to be your last timeout, but you're going to call that timeout with like 17 seconds left. So you still have shots at the end zone, but with now no timeouts, it just didn't make any sense. And when I saw it, I'm like, well, what the heck are you doing, Kyle? And Kyle did a lot of good things. It talked about great ball control. Awesome. Like some of the play designs that he had, but there were just a couple weird plays between that and whatever the heck that like double reverse was, with Debo supposed to run the ball and he ended up being back like 20 yards and then had to shake people and get in field goal range. I mean, that was just an odd play call on 3rd and 5 from where they were. Like there were just some things where I'm like, maybe this is preseason for Kyle Shanahan too, since he was giving off play calling duties to other guys.
Yeah, and I think he envisioned that going some way else. I don't know, and I'd have to rewatch it, but I don't know if there was just a really it was poorly designed, poorly executed. There was a bad block, a missed block or something, but there were multiple guys like straight in the backfield on that play to push it well back. And it was actually a sneaky, great play by Deebo Samuel just to get the ball back to the point where it wasn't that long of a field goal for Jake Moody in this one, which reminds me, Croc. Next.
Got to get money Moody.
We
Game
got
ball,
game
sure.
ball for the guy who put the most points on the board for the San Francisco 49ers in this one, and finish up our rapid reaction to the San Francisco 49ers week 1 win over the New York Jets next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We all have something a little bit different for you this time, and you've heard us talk about FanDuel so much, and there's a reason they're America's #1 sports book, and I hope you all won some money betting on the San Francisco 49ers to win in week 1. Never a doubt. You probably could have got a little extra juice on that one as well once Christian McCaffrey was labeled inactive in this football game. But now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com. I've been accused, Croc, of being a jinx on the San Francisco 49ers, specifically of Christian McCaffrey. Because I say sometimes that running backs don't matter, and a long history of talking about spending on running backs, whether it's draft picks, trades, big money, things like that. And then I went and drafted him #1 overall in my fantasy league, the league that we've talked about here with our guy, Nick Winkler. And he has yet to play a game for my fantasy team now after drafting him #1 overall. And people said, you're a jinx. You can't believe you drafted Christian McCaffrey. How could you do that to us, drafting Christian McCaffrey #1 in your fantasy league, Peacock? You jinxed him. But I want to tell you who the kicker is for my fantasy team as well. I only got 2 49ers on my fantasy roster. It's Christian McCaffrey, and it's Jake Moody. Money Moody. 6 for 6 on field goals in this game, including a 53-yarder. So, and I mean, that's not even talking about the extra points made by Jake Moody as well. So Jake Moody absolutely gets a game ball in this one. 6 for 6 for Jake Moody, and he was phenomenal in this football game, Croc. And so, look, and I also say things about drafting kickers in the 3rd round, but Jake Moody made good in this one, and was a big part of that San Francisco 49ers win.
What is that, 20 points by him? 6 times 3, 18 plus the 2 extra points.
Yep, 20 points.
That's a lot. That is heavily leaning on him.
Even if Jordan Mason didn't do his thing, it was 20-19, Jake Moody versus the Jets.
Right. Watching Jake Moody out there, I think is just, continue to give guys confidence in what he potentially, can do. And to watch him go 6 for 6, bang some from, 50 yards, for me, I'm like, let's go. And, you still kind of have that Robbie Gould hangover a little bit. There were some key misses that that Jake Moody had last year, but the more he has opportunities like that, including the doink. Once he got the doink, once he hit off the goalpost, I said, this is just his day.
He doinked one too. He got the right side of the doink though, and it bounced through the uprights instead of away from the uprights. So big time game from Jake Moody in this one. 6 for 6 on field goals in the week 1 win for the San Francisco 49ers. How about a game ball, Croc, for the 49ers rookie right guard, Dominic Puni? He had a big draw in this game, and we talked about this as one of our keys to victory is getting Quinnen Williams blocked up. And really the only big pressure that Quinnen Williams had, he had 3 tackles in this game. He did have the 1 quarterback hit, and that was when he lined up way wide outside, more over Colton McKivitz, and he kind of split the two of McKivitz and Dominic Puni between right tackle and right guard, but he was more lined up outside over McKivitz on that. And I was a little bit worried because I was early in the game, and I thought, man, okay, Aaron Rodgers got hot throwing to Garrett Wilson, and now they're moving Quinnen Williams around to get matchups, and they're going to have him against the right side of that offensive line all day. Is this going to be a long day for Brock Purdy and the 49ers offensive line? And no, they locked it up. And so whether it's the entire offensive line, Puni himself, Trent Williams, who played every single snap until he had to get an IV in the 4th quarter of that game, phenomenal job by the 49ers offensive line.
Shout out to Dominic Puni, and shout out to the offensive line. I talked about in our kind of recap of, the Sunday slate of games, man, a lot of poor offensive line play around the league. And people were worried about that with the 49ers. What is this offensive line going to look like? But I would say if you watched the 49ers game and you watched several other games, you would say, do the 49ers not have the best offensive line in the league? I'm kind of, being a little funny there. But no, they gave their quarterback time. They gave him protection. Were there times where it wasn't as great or broke down? Again, you talked about it earlier with Quentin Williams lining up over McKivitz. That didn't go very well early on. But for majority of this game, whatever the 49ers were trying to do offensively, moving the pocket a little bit, doing a little bit more max protect, but getting guys out in space and giving their quarterback time to hit those throws, I thought they did a terrific job of that. So shout out to the 49ers offensive line. I thought they played well. And shout out to, I'll say this, Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk for making it through the game. That was one thing I was worried about. Like, what is their conditioning going to look like? I know a lot of people want to kind of rip Brandon Ayuk because there were a couple of drops there. But, hey, this guy has to work his way back. He hasn't been doing anything at full speed, competing against someone going 100 miles an hour, while trying to concentrate on the ball. So, I'd assume that he'll get those things together. And Trent Williams came in and was the consummate pro that he's always been. The thing with both of these guys I worry about, even more than their current in-game conditioning or anything like that, is will there be any type of wear and tear on going from 0 to 100 and potentially some kind of injury sneaking up on them. But today was a step I felt like in the right direction for really both guys, even if either one of them didn't play 100% their best game.
I want to go back in the game a little bit and talk about a couple of the biggest drives of the game, and they happen in early. They happen in the first half, and specifically in the second quarter. And it was the next Jets drive after the drive I talked about, where the Jets went down the field and scored to end at the end of the first quarter. And Aaron Rodgers looked like he was getting hot and hit Garrett Wilson a bunch of times, and they went and scored a touchdown. And it was the very next drive the 49ers came out, got a stop, got the ball back, and then went down the field and scored. And I thought that was such a huge answer for the 49ers. And it really started to look like the 49ers were locked in after kind of a sloppy start. And, watching all the games you talked about this weekend with some of the sloppiness, and the 49ers didn't do the joint practices, and they had multiple players out or guys that missed camp. And I thought, man, is this going to be one of those games for the 49ers? And they lose one early in the season because they're not in midseason form. They weren't quite ready to play, and they looked a little bit sloppy, and they tightened it up. So I don't know if you credit the coaching staff on that, just the guys on the field, the high character that this team is made of, but they came out with a big stop, came right back, started scoring, and then just started to run away from the New York Jets and really dominated the game. So I think that was the key turning point. It was a huge drive for the 49ers to make a statement and say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to march down the field like that again. And we're going to get off the field, give the ball back to our offense, and go take the lead back.
Well, what you think about how Aaron Rodgers looked? Playing a little fast in his head?
Awful moving, trying to get out of the pocket. He looked rough. He looked like he was a 65-year-old man. It didn't look good when he was trying to I'm going to get out of the pocket and do Aaron Rodgers stuff. I was like, oh, God, stay in the pocket, Aaron Rodgers. That didn't look good. And the way he was throwing, too, you could tell he's not 100% in his Achilles. And, who knows if he ever is at this point. But he was just fully off of his it looked like a golf follow through. He was just all the way weight on his front foot and his back foot hardly on the ground when he was throwing. And he was throwing it fine, I thought, but you could tell it looked a little different, and that Achilles affects him.
Yeah. I mean, and that's tough. You never want to see, a great player like him kind of go. I don't want the last memory of him to be this guy that just was a complete shell of himself. I like how Tom Brady went out. Like, I feel like Tom Brady could have kept playing maybe another year or two, but I thought he got out at the right time. My memory of Peyton Manning getting out is just like, oh my, I watched your whole career, Peyton Manning. And the last image I have of you is, yeah, you won a Super Bowl, but you weren't even able to complete a 15-yard out. Like, he just couldn't throw it, like, physically. And when he threw a go ball, I don't know if you guys remember this, when he would throw a go ball to Demaryius Thomas, as soon as he said hike, he would throw it. So it would go like 30 yards and hit Demaryius Thomas in stride. But he had to throw it as soon as he said hike. I don't want that to be my last image of Aaron Rodgers, a guy who is kind of struggling to get the ball where he wants. But nice throw, getting the 49ers to jump off sides, hit Allen Lazard for a touchdown. I thought that was a little A-Rod-ish right there.
Classic Aaron Rodgers right there for sure. Getting a free play and then going and hitting somebody down the field for a touchdown. The best throw of the night was Brock Purdy, and it was dropped by Brandon Ayuk in the corner of the end zone. That was an absolute dime, and that would have made, because overall Brock Purdy's numbers don't really blow you away or anything. And we've talked so much about the ground game and what it looked like with Deebo Samuel and the wide back, and of course Jordan Mason's 147 yards on the ground. Brock Purdy was, he was fine. He was efficient. No interceptions. No, he sacked twice. He had an 89.9 quarterback rating. He was 19 of 29 passing for 231 yards, but that would have put him over 250 yards and would have put a touchdown on there. And it would look like a little bit different night for Brock Purdy.
I thought early on it started to look a little weird. I think he completed 2 out of 6 passes or something like that to start the game. Started getting in a little groove. Offensive line was like, all right, we'll give you some time. You start hitting some nice chunk plays to Juwan Jennings. I thought that was awesome. Had some weird throws, like he one-hopped one to George Kittle. He threw one. There was like a drive towards the end of the game that was really weird. I'm like, where the hell is he throwing the ball? But that throw to Brandon Ayuk, I mean, that was on the money, a very soft, catchable. Eric, just go run under this, go get it, Ayuk. And Ayuk wasn't able to come down with it. So I think a lot of people are killing Ayuk over there. I think they're still upset that he held out, but I didn't have like these high expectations of, you held out, you got paid. Now all of a sudden, when you come back week 1 without any offseason, you're gonna 100% be the guy that's making $30 million a year. I'm giving him a couple weeks. Get your legs under you, get your wind under you, get your concentration back, get used to playing with guys draped all over you. And I think we'll start to see more of that Brandon Ayuk that they're paying. But right now, just to expect him, and again, you want to be mad because he held out, I get it, but to expect him to just come in and be this guy that's just gonna, just 1,000% ball out after missing literally all of training camp. Maybe I thought he ran a couple good routes, caught a couple good passes, but I didn't have like these high expectations for him. Whatever you get, it's a plus. You won. Let's continue to move in the right direction.
Yeah, you signed Brandon Ayuk to a 4-year contract. It's about how he fits into this team in the long-term plan. It wasn't about week 1. He just showed up and just started practicing, and we talked about that before. Even thinking Christian McCaffrey was going to play, we were like, it's probably a Deebo game, maybe a Kittle game, less of a Brandon Ayuk game in week 1 until he gets his legs under him for the season. Overall, Croc, impressive win for the 49ers. The Jets were expected to be a really good team. I think they are going to be a pretty good team this year in the NFL. They're going to make some noise in the AFC East, but the 49ers were able to get a win in somewhat dominating fashion, especially after the slow start early. And they're not 100%. This is not even close to the best 49ers team we're going to see. And they went out and beat one of the teams that we expect to be one of the better teams in the AFC in this one. So a huge win for the 49ers and a nice little statement to start the year and put all of that weird offseason behind them.
Real quick, I see some people in the chat, they're still talking about Brandon Ayuk. Says, well, he did not play great. There was 2 throws he made that were wide open, and they just got awful. I never seen him throw a ground hopper. I think he's talking about Brock Purdy. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Okay, Brock Purdy had some terrific throws. I like the throw down the sideline to Kyle Juszczyk. And when we talk about Juszczyk, I think he made some really good plays, made some key catches. George Kittle, he was targeted. I felt like a lot of it was kind of shorter underneath. He did hit the deep out early in the game, but there were a lot of stuff off bootlegs, and getting the ball to Kittle, and he was like getting hit. I feel like, I'm like, dang, is he going to get hurt? Why does he keep getting hit as soon as he touching the ball? It was like he almost had to kind of stop and turn around, catch the ball, and guys were hitting him right here, and he was falling backwards. But he made it through the game. He was fine. But I thought for Brock Purdy, he played well. It looked like a Brock Purdy game. You'll have some weird attempts, some stuff that'll go, and then you have a great throw, and you have some hitting guys where he needs to hit. And I thought you got the full Brock Purdy experience in this game, and I thought he was good. And if you needed him to throw more, I would have been comfortable with that. I didn't see anything that was like too alarming.
No doubt, classic Brock Purdy, and a classic win for Brock Purdy's San Francisco 49ers to start the year 1-0, 32-19 over the New York Jets. We're going to continue to break down this game, rewatch all the news with going on with the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, Croc and I will have you covered all season long, pre-games, post-games, right here on Locked On 49ers. So thanks everybody out there for making us your first listen. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And for your second listen, check out one of the other 200 pods right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, including the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson breaking down the entire league daily, and the new Locked On NFL and tons more, the live stream every day on YouTube and on your Amazon Fire. So check it all out. And Croc and I'll be back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.